One of days, my internet is going to get so much better. Hey, how's everybody doing today? This is Jay McLovin, along with my boy Dustin Reese, coming to you with just a quick breaking pop-up show on some news that just came available. You can find all this information, as you saw in the link tree before we got here, found on Unscripted. Dustin, how you doing, brother?
Very surprised, a little bit shocked at what just happened, honestly, especially when you look at where all the trade talk was kind of circulating this offseason. So I don't think anyone saw this coming.
Yeah, certainly not me. I mean, we all kind of knew that Damian Lillard was wanting to get traded. We all knew that was going to happen at some level, at some point. We all knew that the hype was mainly centered around the Heat of Miami, and that's where we thought he was going to be going. We were all prepared for him to go to the Miami Heat. Well, that's just not the case. As you guys have probably seen a little bit now, the trade has happened, and it does have Portland Blazers Damian Lillard going to the Milwaukee Bucks. And the Suns, AYTEN, is going to Portland, and the Bucks, Drew Holiday, is going to Portland. Portland's Nurkic is going to the Phoenix Suns, which is weird. So they give up AYTEN for Nurkic. I don't know if I like that or don't like that.
There's a reason why the Suns made that deal, which I can tell you.
Yeah, don't worry. We're going to get that. We definitely get that in a second. So the Suns get Grayson Allen from Milwaukee, and the Blazers get the 2029 first-round pick from the Bucks plus 2 additional pick swaps. Wow. I mean, I think Portland makes out. They get Drew Holiday, right? They get AYTEN. They get a 29 first-round pick, and then they get a couple of pick swaps. Honestly, not bad haul for Damian Dollar. But let's go to the guru that brought this about to talk about it. Dustin, man, what's your thoughts on this trade, bro?
Well, I think the Bucks instantly just became the favorites in the Eastern Conference with this move. You kind of had, I'm not going to really say mixed feelings on Giannis with his press conference that he had a couple weeks ago, but he kind of left some comments out there that didn't really sit well with the Bucks fans, basically saying that if the Bucks don't show him or really don't commit to winning, he's not going to hesitate kind of chasing a ring. And I think a lot of people in Milwaukee didn't like the way those comments came off because they kind of thought it sounded like he wants to leave when he was just kind of making a point like, I'm not going to be here my entire career if you're not going to show me that you want to win. And honestly, this is the Bucks' way to show Giannis that they want to win, and they want to win now. You add a top 5 point guard to the Bucks roster. You add one of the better 3-point shooters to the Bucks roster. You add a guy capable of giving you 30 points on a given night to the Bucks roster, and he's under control for another 3 or 4 years. So now you have him paired with Giannis for another 3 or 4 years. You just brought back Chris Middleton on a 3-year deal. You just re-signed Brook Lopez to a 2-year deal, and now a championship window that was looking at maybe another 1 or 2 years just got cracked open for about 3 or 4 years with this addition.
Yeah, absolutely. So who got the better end of the AYTEN side of it? We know Nurkic is going to replace AYTEN now with the Suns, and AYTEN is now going to be the starting center for the Portland Trail Blazers. Who got the better end of that specific side of the trade?
I think Phoenix got the better end on that because for as good as AYTEN is offensively, the biggest criticism he's had since he's come into this league is he is a defensive liability. And that's something that the Phoenix Suns were not very good at down the stretch was defense. So, yes, you're losing a lot of offense in DeAndre Ayton, but Jusuf Nurkic is a much better defensive center. And that's something that Phoenix desperately wanted to do. They wanted to get more defensive, especially with Frank Vogel as their head coach now. He's more of a defensive-minded head coach. So adding Nurkic inside as a defensive presence down low, that's something that the Suns haven't had. But they're also adding Nazir Little and Grayson Allen to the Suns roster, which is going to give them more bench depth than what they've had in the past. And that's something that I know you've really touched on the last year plus with the Phoenix Suns, where their starting five are arguably as good as anybody's starting five. But after that, their bench is so shorthanded that they're not very good when it comes to depth. And adding guys like Grayson Allen and Nazir Little are going to give the Suns more bench depth because they're two great shooters. They're players that have started before in the past, and they're players that consistently will give you double digits off the bench, which is all you can ask for from any of your bench role players.
Yeah, because that really was a knock for Phoenix, right? The biggest knock on Phoenix was, hey, you got a great starting five, but you have zero bench. And now, you do give up, Ayton, and you're getting Nurkic, but now you're also building on the depth of your bench, which then kind of gives you a little bit more flexibility during the games when you need those subs to come in and relieve those starters, because the starters can't go every damn minute. So you got to have somebody to relieve that, and I think that definitely does benefit the Suns. But is it really enough to benefit them to get the title? And as you stated before, pretty much now the Bucks getting getting Lillard to go along with Middleton. I mean, and him. I mean, that's just insane. That's insane because now you got the inside presence of shooting and whatnot, from Giannis. But then your outside perimeter, you get Dame Dollar and Middleton. I mean, that's a great inside-outside combination.
It is, and now you look at Phoenix's starting five. Now you have Devin Booker, a 30-point scorer, Kevin Durant, a 30-point scorer, and Bradley Beal, a 30-point scorer, with Nurkic now kind of as that defensive stopper on the inside. So the only thing that Phoenix is missing at this point is a point guard, which I'm pretty sure somebody's going to get them.
My only question for the Bucks is, you gave up the 29 first-round pick, which honestly, if you're the Bucks, you're going to finish pretty high in the stand, or you're going to finish high in the record. So your ability to really draft is going to be extremely low in that first round anyway. You're definitely not getting a lottery pick. The best that they can get out of that would be, or I should say, the Blazers get the Blazers get a really crappy first round pick from the Bucks. Because let's be honest, like I said, the Bucks are going to have a lousy draft pick, right? So, and then you get a couple of pick swaps, and I'm guessing those pick swaps will probably be in later rounds. So, do the pick swaps and the picks really even matter? You're muted, Bubba.
I don't know even where the pick swaps are coming from. I don't know if it's just Milwaukee that has the pick swaps, or if those pick swaps can be mixed with Phoenix also, because if they can be mixed with Phoenix, that kind of puts Portland in a good position, because Portland's going to be a lottery pick this year. And depending on what they do, they're probably going to be a lottery pick next year, so that's most likely a couple top 10 picks right there. If they get a pick swap with Phoenix, you're looking at potentially 2 top 10 picks and an additional 2 top 20 picks the next couple of years, which can certainly help the team. So that right there is huge. But then you also have to look at the other side of this trade. Drew Holiday going to Portland is going to be short-lived, because Portland is already trying to shop Drew Holiday.
Right.
And we already know that the Miami Heat were the team that everyone thought Damian Lillard was going to go to. So does Drew Holiday end up going to Miami now? And if that's the case, what is Miami going to send back Portland? Are they going to give them Tyler Hero? Or are they going to give them a guy like Bam Adebayo? Because Miami doesn't really have any draft assets that they can give Portland back. I know another team that was rumored as kind of one of the sleeper teams to get Lillard is also in desperate need of point guard help, and that's the Chicago Bulls. If Drew Holiday goes to the Chicago Bulls, the Bulls just re-signed Kobe White to a 4-year contract that you could send Portland's way. He's a shooting guard / point guard that can help you there. They have Patrick Williams, who still has 2 years left on his rookie deal that you can send Portland. Granted, they may not have the draft capital that Portland wants, but if Portland were to trade Drew Holiday to the Bulls have a lot of young pieces that Portland could really benefit from, and adding a guy like Kobe White and Patrick Williams to pair with DeAndre Ayton would give Portland 3 players that are 25 years old or younger to build around for the next 3 years.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Okay, so right now the Blazers are getting Ayton, and they're getting Holiday, and then they're getting a draft pick and some swaps. We all know that the Blazers are rebuilding. This is not a team that is ready to compete now, and I think that's why Holiday is up on the market, because they know they're in rebuild mode the minute they got rid of Damian Dollar, right? So now you know they're in rebuild mode. How do you see this rebuild for Portland going, and when do you think we can see Portland being competitive again?
I think it depends on where Holiday goes and what they get for him. If they end up getting pretty much all draft capital before him, you're probably looking at a lengthy 3 or 4 year rebuild, which they're basically in year 1 of the rebuild right now. So that puts them pretty much by the end of Ayton's contract before they're going to be competitive again. But if they are to trade Holiday for, like I said, a guy like Kobe White and Patrick Williams plus some draft picks, you're probably still looking at a 2 year, maybe a 3 year rebuild, but at least it puts you in a more competitive state because you're adding some assets that have proven they can be reliable players when they're counted on. They just have never been given that everyday role or given that trusted role in their previous organization that they would get with Portland.
So let me ask you this. The Rockets, my team, they definitely have been in rebuild for a hot minute. Portland, in my opinion, is going through a rebuild. Which team do you think will be considered to be a competitive team, one before the other? Do you have Portland before the Rockets or Rockets before Portland?
Rockets before Portland, mainly because they have Fred VanVleet, who has done nothing but win during his tenure at Toronto. He's a veteran who knows how to win. He's a veteran who wants to win. And the Rockets brought in Ime Udoka. And Ime Udoka, granted, his tenure with Boston did not end very well. But during his one season as the Boston head coach, what did he prove he can do?
He can lead and he can develop.
Exactly. We don't know if Chauncey Billups can do that yet in Portland because he's a first-time head coach that never even had any assistant coach experience prior to getting that job.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. So do you think that the hiring of Chauncey Billups for a rebuild team like Portland was the right move?
At the time, yes, because I think they brought in Chauncey more because of Lillard. They were trying to do whatever it took to keep Lillard there, and him and Lillard have a very good relationship because Lillard's worked out with Chauncey Billups on off seasons in the past to kind of improve his game a little bit. So Portland's thought process was, we lost Terry Stotts, who was one of the better coaches we've had. We lost C.J. McCollum. We lost some of these other pieces that helped us get to the playoffs all these years, and now we know we're going to enter a rebuild mode. What can we do as an organization to try to keep Lillard here long term? And I think Chauncey Billups was the answer at the time because he knew Lillard so well. They had that relationship, and it was kind of like, what do you want me to do as a coach to help you do better? And obviously with Lillard being hurt last year, it didn't really matter at that point. But I think now it's just gotten to the point where Portland knows they're years away from contending at this point. So why keep somebody that's making $50 million a year, taking up roughly 30% of your salary cap when you have a coach that's probably not going to be there to see the next great Portland team and just kind of use him as the little decoy, the little ploy, for example, just to kind of build that team back up to where you want it to go. And then when you get to that competitive window, then you go and find the head coach you want.
Right. So it looks like, if I'm reading their depth chart right, Grayson Allen wasn't starting shooting guard. That will obviously be replaced by Damian Dollar. So it really leaves open the point guard position that Drew Holiday is vacating.
Are you talking Milwaukee?
AJ Green is their next in line. Is that who you see taking over the point now for the Bucks?
No, I think Lillard goes to the point. I think
Lillard. Then I would open up to you think they slide Malik Beasley over to.
No, I think so. I think Lillard will go to the point. I think Chris Middleton will go from the 3 to the 2. And I think they move Bobby Portis to the 3 and go with a bigger lineup with Portis, Giannis, and Lopez at the forwards, and then go with Middleton and Lillard at the guard.
Oh, won't that be interesting?
Because we've seen it before. The Bucks have
that would be very interesting if that actually comes to fruition. Yeah.
Because we've seen it before when the Bucks when the Bucks won the NBA Finals. They did not have Middleton for some of that. But we saw when the Bucks had the most success that playoff run was when they went with a bigger lineup. And they went with the Portis, Giannis, and Brook Lopez combination throughout the Eastern Conference Finals and the NBA Finals. And last year with Giannis missing time in the playoffs and Middleton being out again, they went with a much smaller lineup last year where you had Drew Holiday as your point guard, but then you had Grayson Allen as your shooting guard. Javon Carter, who theoretically is a point guard, was playing your 3 position. Then you had Bobby Portis at the 4 and Brook Lopez at the 5, and it didn't work out when the Bucks went smaller. So I think the Bucks are going to be like, we don't have maybe that explosive number 3, number 2 player that we want to have, but if we can have 2 shooters and Lillard and Middleton play the guard position, we can just go bigger inside with Portis, Giannis, and Lopez, and we'll still be better off for it.
Yeah, I really like the play of Grayson Allen, though, with the Bucks. I thought, he was a tough guy, played good defense, great off the bench, give you a few points when you need it. You don't think at all that the Bucks will miss that type of punch off the bench from Grayson Allen?
I think they will, but the thing that always has been the issue with Grayson Allen is he gets himself in trouble just by doing stupid fouls, stupid plays where he always ends up getting himself suspended anyways. And I think the Bucks are at a position now where you have a new head coach in Adrian Griffin. Mike Budenholzer's not there anymore. You don't want any distractions to kind of carry over to the new head coach. So now the new head coach gets rid of Grayson Allen. He basically has this roster in place that he wants to have now. And if he has this roster put in place, he can pick who he wants to start where. And without Grayson Allen, yes, you're losing a good 3-point shooter. Yes, you're losing a good player. But like you said, Malik Beasley's there. He can come off the bench. He can shoot threes. You have Pat Connaughton back from his injury, another guy that can shoot threes. Jay Crowder comes off the bench. Jay Crowder, we know the kind of player he is as a role player. You also have the veteran Goran Dragic. Goran Dragic has always been a very good 3-pointer off the bench. So, I mean, the Bucks have plenty of pieces that can make up for Grayson Allen. It's just going to be probably different combinations of mixing, matching, deciding what they want to do.
Okay, the last thing I want to talk about before we get out of here is we kind of see what Portland is doing, right? They are basically centering around AYTEN as the key piece of the trade for them. And we all know that Drew Holiday is just more or less draft capital for them to build on with the other picks and things that they're getting out of this. So we kind of see where Portland's direction in this trade is going. We also see where the Bucks getting Damian Lillard in this trade and what it means for them and where they're going and the direction that they're trying to go to win the East and get back to the. The one question I have really is for the Suns. Did the Suns do enough? Did they add enough in what they've given up and taken in this draft to be competitive for a Western Conference Finals spot? Not finals. I'm just trying to see if these guys can get to the Western Conference Finals based on what they have. Did they add enough in this trade to at least get to the Western Conference Finals?
If they can stay healthy, I think they did. The big question to me is who's going to replace Chris Paul? Yes, Chris Paul has always had his injury history, and he had it again last year, but Chris Paul is one of the best point guards in the NBA. He's the quarterback of the Suns offense. He runs everything that the Suns offense wants to do. And when he was in that lineup, the Suns offense was one of the better offenses in the NBA versus they took a little bit of a step backwards when he wasn't in the lineup. Adding Bradley Beal is going to give you more offensive firepower that Chris Paul couldn't give you because Chris Paul's not a 25 to 30-point scorer. He's more like a 16, 17-point scorer. But Bradley Beal is also not a point guard. He doesn't run the offense. Devin Booker can play point guard, but he's not really one to run an offense. So I don't know what the Suns plan to do with that point guard spot, but in terms of everything else on their roster, you have three of the best scorers in the NBA right now on your roster. You know that all three of them can give you 25 to 30 on a given night. You know there's nights where one player might give you 40 or 50 because you've seen all three of those players give you 40 or 50. You're losing a guy in AYTEN for a guy in Nurkic who doesn't have as much offensive talent, but he's a better defensive player, which is something that the Suns lacked, especially with guys like Anthony Davis, Nikola Jokic, and a lot of these bigs in the Western Conference that just had their way with AYTEN last year. Nurkic is going to at least help with that. I still think the team to beat in the Western Conference right now, I think it's still the Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Lakers, mainly because of what the Lakers did this offseason. But the Suns are going to be right up there at the end, too, just because they have the offense that can compete with anybody. It's more or less now, what do they do at point guard and what are they going to do at defense? And if they can get a defensive-minded point guard, like a Drew Holiday, which I don't see Portland giving them Drew Holiday, but if they can get a kind of a point guard in that Drew Holiday mold, the Suns are going to be right up there in the Western Conference by the end of it, too.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at the depth chart right now, it is Bradley Beal slated at the point, Booker at the shooting, and then you got a Kogi at the small and so forth, Durant, and obviously now Nurkic. That is your Suns lineup unless they can pull out some other moves. That's what I expect to see. I think what we do see. And then, of course, you have Grayson Allen coming off the bench along with Eric Gordon. I'm a big Eric Gordon fan. I saw what Eric Gordon did with Houston. He has a really good leadership mentality. He is a dependable shooter when you need him to be. He does give you good 3 points when you need it. So, I still think the Phoenix Suns do have a little bit of depth on that bench, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to get them to the Western Conference Finals. I'm so on the edge of that I just don't know if they have enough. And for that reason, I don't think they do get to the Western Conference Finals. But at the end of the day, Dustin, what we think and what we see could be two different things, and you never can rule anybody out at this point. Like you said, for various reasons, any one of those guys that's on the Suns can give you 30 to 40 to 50. I mean, it just depends on if they ignite together, if one ignites. I mean, you just don't know what you're going to get until you get it. But and correct me if I'm wrong. I believe is it Nick who got the Suns head coach? Was it Nurse that got the head coach job over there?
Vogel.
Freddie Vogel from the Lakers. Now, I got to be honest with you. Some people like Vogel. Some people don't like Vogel. I personally did not like the Vogel with the Lakers. I felt like he could not command Braun, Davis, Westbrook. I mean, he had a hard time.
Yeah,
managing those big personalities. Can he manage the personalities and the dysfunction of a Kevin Durant at times?
I think he can, because I think that was the biggest issue he had with the Lakers was you have a guy in LeBron James whose personality is huge in the NBA. You have a guy in Anthony Davis kind of the same way, like a lot of the injuries that he's had to deal with, like a lot of the center of the attention goes his way. And if you look at his previous stops before Vogel was in Los Angeles, he was the coach at Orlando for 3 years. Orlando doesn't really get any attention because they've been so terrible for the last decade plus since Dwight Howard basically left. He was with Indiana the first 5 years, and that's when Indiana had Paul George and some of these other pieces and Danny Granger, and they were kind of making their runs in the Eastern Conference, but he never really had to deal with any drama, never really had to deal with any kind of conflicting personalities there. And, yes, Kevin Durant is drama-filled and things like that, but he's not really outspoken about it. Yes, there's times where he, says, I want to be traded and things like that, but even with the media, he's not very outspoken about it. Devin Booker's a very quiet player. Bradley Beal's a very quiet player, so he's getting put in a situation where all the personalities that you're joining, there's not really an outspoken personality. They're all very quiet. They all keep to themselves, and then they go about and do their things on the court, and then when they do speak up, it's kind of like a rare occasion. So I think Vogel can fit in nicely, and for a team that wants to be more defensive, Vogel's the kind of the coach that you're looking for, because that's what Vogel was always known for, was a defensive-minded head coach.
Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. This has been our pop-up show, man. Again, with the big blockbuster trade of AYTEN going to Portland, Holiday going to Portland, Lillard going to the Bucks, Nurkic going to the Suns, Grayson, obviously going to the Suns from the Bucks and pick swaps. I mean, a lot of things have transpired over the last, few hours. And we will see what this means for the league as we get closer, because basketball season is vastly approaching upon us. So we will see what that looks like. Dustin, any final thoughts before we get out of here, brother?
Nope, I'm just going to turn my attention to Drew Holiday now and to see what kind of dominoes fall from there, because I have a feeling it's going to take a 3-team deal to get that trade done too, because the teams that are looking at Drew Holiday don't really have the draft capital to give Portland. So I think a third team is going to have to be added into that mix to make that happen.
Yeah, there you have it, folks. As Dustin said, we will see what other dominoes will come out of this trade as the week or so goes along. Until next time, man, it's your boy Jay McLovin and Dustin Reese from Unscripted. Make sure you check us out on our link tree in the outro as it comes up, and we'll catch you on the next go-around, man. Y'all be good. We out.